my crafty friends, it's me, Lisa, the DIY Diva. I have come up with 7 brand new crafts for you for your decorating this year. These are all easy and very budget friendly, so let's get started.
It all just goes away. The things I plan to say, oh baby.
I have always wanted a Target bar cart. They had them a while ago and they were only $5. Well, you can't find them anymore, but thankfully I found this one at Goodwill. It just needed to be cleaned up a little bit. And I'm not sure if the wood was this color in the beginning, but after a little bit of scrubbing, I wasn't really happy with the color. So I used some gel stain and I darkened up both of those, I guess, 2 trays on the bar cart. I just used some gel stain. I got this at Hobby Lobby. It was super affordable. It was like 99 cents. So for this gel stain, all I did was paint it onto each of the wood pieces. Then I came back with a clean, dry towel and I just removed all of the excess stain. And that is what it ended up looking like. I think it's adorable. I love that color. I think it looks brand new. And I figured I'd put a few of my favorite fall decorations on the bar cart so you could see it too. I love the way this turned out. This is such a cute little tiered tray. So for this craft, it's actually a whole bunch of crafts. So I'm gonna be making some risers, and risers are so easy to make. You just take pieces of wood and then either wooden beads or spindles or the wooden snowmen you can find at Dollar Tree. Basically, whatever you wanna use for the feet, you can use. Then you can come back and finish it with some stain, or you could leave it plain if you wanted to. But I like to stain a lot of my risers, so I'll just use regular wood stain the entire thing, and then I have something really unique to add to my decorating. And as you can see, I like to do a lot of these at one time because that way I have all of these risers ready to be used whenever I need them. Now, a lot of these wood pieces I actually got in a Scrapwood bundle kit on Amazon. It's really affordable and it's a really fun way to get a lot of wood pieces if you don't have access to a saw or a lot of different woods. And it's really fun to make little risers like this. But for the next part of the project, I had this scrap wood out in my garage, and what I did was just cut it down into various sized blocks. And then I brought the pieces back into my craft room and I sanded all of them so that they're nice and smooth. And I wanted to make pumpkins with these, so I didn't have any pumpkin stems, but I did have this dowel that was on the end of a heart from Dollar Tree. So I just used my little saw and cut down the dowel to be the sizes that I wanted them to be for my pumpkin stems. And then I came back with that gel stain again. I believe this is in cherry tone. And I just painted the dowels or stems with the gel stain, and then I wiped off any of the excess, just using a clean and dry cloth. And the one thing I didn't show you was that I painted all of these little blocks orange, and then I put some fall scrapbooking paper on one side. And then I came back with some distressing ink and I just distressed all over each of the pumpkins. Not only did I do the scrapbooking paper part, but I also did the sides and the back of the pumpkin and the top as well. Each of the pumpkins got this distressing ink, and I believe this is in walnut. But this stuff is so much fun if you want to have your pieces have an aged appearance. This is really easy to use. And once I was done with my distressing, I used just a small amount of the Dollar Tree wood glue. This stuff is wonderful, and I attached the pumpkin stems. And when they were dry, I came back with some greenery stems that were like leaves, and I just hot glued those to the top of each of my pumpkins. Once I had the stems attached, then I took this craft paper, it's wired craft paper, and I twisted it around a paintbrush. And then when I pulled it off, I have these little curlicues, and these are so much fun to add to your homemade pumpkins. Then you just have to put a little hot glue and you can attach a curlicue to each pumpkin. I did want to add a little bit of something extra, so I did put a little tiny bit of Spanish moss on each pumpkin, and then I came back with just a regular bow, just a tiny bow, and I attached a bow to each of the pumpkins. And here are the pumpkins, and they're sitting on one of the risers that I made. These were so much fun to make. They were so easy to make, and I made all of these pieces using scrap wood that I already had. Now, we've all seen these pumpkins at Dollar Tree. I really like these, but the one thing I wish is that they had a wood grain. So what I'm going to do is on the back of this pumpkin from Dollar Tree, I'm going to make it look like wood grain, I hope. So first I took a little sander and I just sanded the back. Now I tried to keep the strokes going in one direction the entire length of the pumpkin. Then I came back with a Cricut tool. I just carved lines into the pumpkin. I dug the weeding tool in just a little bit so that there would be deeper grooves and lines in the surface of the pumpkin. Then I came back with some folk art wax. Now I didn't paint this completely covering the entire surface of the pumpkin. I just put a little bit on, probably about half of the pumpkin, and then I took a clean dry towel and I just wiped off all of the excess. Now when I wiped it off, some of that wax got onto the other parts of the pumpkin, which is exactly what I wanted. Then I came back with a little bit of cream acrylic paint and I just drew in a couple of lines. Okay, more than a couple of lines. I drew in some lines on the top and the bottom portion of the pumpkin. The center I'm going to be painting, so that part doesn't really matter. Next, I used that same cloth that I had wiped off the wax on, and I just wiped off the excess of that cream colored paint. To me, this really looks like it has a wood grain in it now. I am very happy with that. Now I'm going to be painting the center orange, and I actually ended up doing this twice because the first time, well, the orange stripe is not as wide as I wanted it to be. But I just wanted to show you, this is how wide it ended up. I should have made it wider like I'm doing right here, and I'm just basically going to be repainting that orange onto the pumpkin. Now I did want to show you when I fold the painter's tape over, I really make sure to press the one edge that's going to be where I need that crisp line. Next, I came back with some more orange paint, and one I believe was pumpkin colored, and then there was a darker pumpkin color that I used, and it was almost out. So I had to really just shake the bottle to get the rest of that paint out. And then I just blended those two layers of paint together. And took a chip brush to make it all nice and smooth at the end. And then I removed the painter's tape again. Even if your project doesn't come out exactly how you wanted to, again, this is what's so fun with crafting. You can always go back and redo it. Next, I used my Cricut machine for the lettering, and it says Hello Pumpkin. I did do white vinyl for this. I could have done a stencil, but to make it easier, I just did the white vinyl. I put the word hello onto the orange portion of the pumpkin. And the pumpkin word is on the bottom of the pumpkin. Next, I focused on the top, and this is where I'm going to have all my embellishments and adornments. So I added in just lots of silk flowers or faux flowers. I started with some leaves, and then I had these, I don't even know what these berry bundles are called, but I put a couple of berry bundles on top of the leaves. And then I made a bow, and I found this ribbon at Hobby Lobby. It's in their fall section. So I made like a double bow, and then I secured that in place at the top of the pumpkin. And then I took a strip of that same ribbon, cut it in half, and these are going to be my tails. But what I did was just twist one end of the tail, and then I tucked it up under the bow. And this ribbon does have a wire edge, so it holds that shape pretty well. And I also had these doilies. They're like paper doilies. I think they're made for scrapbooking. So I just cut out a bow shape and put that on top of my bow. And then I came back with some more ribbon. This is from Dollar Tree, and I added another bow. I also added an extra set of tails for the plaid bow. And then I came back with a jute bow, and I put that right in the center. I also had these pumpkins that were extra, and I thought they might be kind of cute on either side of the bow, so I added them as well. And on those pumpkins, I did add some pip berries and a little wired craft paper squiggle. I am so excited with this project. I have been wanting to do this for so long, and I'm so happy that I finally did it. I love anything that says Hello Pumpkin, and I think this Dollar Tree pumpkin looks pretty darn cute. What do you think? I just love going to Hobby Lobby and finding clearance items like this sign. This is a pretty good size sign because these signs make perfect blanks for crafting. So I took a couple of different colors of orange, and I painted a pretty heavy coat of that onto the top of the sign. Then I came back with some cream color, and I added in a couple of lines, and I used a chip brush just to wipe that cream paint across my sign. I made sure to do the edges as well. And then I came back over it one more time with a smaller chip brush. Once it was all dry, I put a coat of Mod Podge on top of the sign. Once that was dry, I made a stencil of a pumpkin, and I really love this stencil, this pumpkin stencil, I guess, on a stenciling paper, so the stencil or the blue part will actually stay in place. And I carefully removed that transfer tape because there's a lot of little tiny parts in the pumpkin, and I don't want those to peel off. Now you may be thinking that I'm just going to be using an acrylic paint to stencil, but no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm going to be using this texture paste. This is an opaque texture paste that I found online, and this paste is going to give a raised appearance to my pumpkin. So I carefully just put lots of that texturing paste over top of my stencil. And once I was happy with how much I had on, I carefully removed the stenciling material. You have to go really slow with this because if you go too fast, you could pull off a lot of that texture medium. But if you go nice and slow, you can have like peaks and valleys and raised areas on whatever it is that you're creating. And this is my stenciled pumpkin. I think it looks fantastic. I love the different colors and I love the raised texture. I think it looks really awesome. I'm so happy with how this turned out. And the way that I painted the background, it kind of looks like wood too. Now, when you're doing crafts, do you end up with lots of extra pumpkins? Oh, I know I do. So I decided to put these pumpkins to good use. The first thing I had to do was paint them. So I did mix some white acrylic paint with some chalk paint, and I painted over all of the white pumpkins that I had because I want them all to be the same color of white. I also did that with all of the gold pumpkins. Then I came back with some burnt umber paint and I painted all of the stems. Now on some of the pumpkins I didn't have stems, so I had to make them. And then on some of those stems I had to come back and paint them the same color so that they would all look like they had the same type of stem. Next, I came back with this folk art metallic paint, and I believe this is in a copper color. I thought it would be so pretty against this Dollar Tree tray. And I had painted this Dollar Tree tray black, and it really seems to intensify that copper color. Now, I want it to look kind of rough, so I'm just kind of pouncing the paint onto the top and the bottom of the tray. And once I was done with the bottom of the tray, I did come back and hit the top just one more time. And then I had these extra drawer pulls, so I pounced that metallic paint onto the drawer handles as well. And once everything had dried, I attached the drawer pulls to either side of the tray. Then once that was dry, I took all of my pumpkins and I hot glued them together, and this is the end result. Yes, it is just like a huge stack of pumpkins, but I thought this would be a fun way to use all of those extra little pumpkins that I had laying around, and I don't really have any use for them, so I made a big pile of pumpkins. Now I got these trays on Michaels. I think I got them on Michaels.com, and they're just little wood trays, and they were 99 cents each. So these are actually cheaper than what you can find at Dollar Tree. These are meant to hang up, but I'm not going to hang them up. So I just removed everything, including the hangers, and they had like jute hangers too. So they had double hangers on each one, and I removed everything from these trays. Then I came back with some Dollar Tree wood glue and I secured 3 trays together. So I'm going to be making a centerpiece. I'm pretty sure you figured that out by now. So I just used a little bit of Dollar Tree wood glue and secured the trays together. And to make sure that they were going to stay together, I used these Dollar Tree clamps just to make sure the little trays are going to stay where I want them to stay. Once that was dry, I came back. I used these wooden beads. I don't know if they're actually beads. I can't remember where I found these, but I'm using these as feet for the bottom of my tray. And the Dollar Tree wood glue is very strong, so it will give a permanent bond to whatever wood you're gluing together. And once that was dry, I came back with that gel stain again, and I believe this is either maple or cherry. I cannot remember. I think it's maple. But I just put a coat of that gel stain on all 3 of the trays and those wooden beads. And then using a clean cloth, I wiped away the excess. I did it on the bottom and I did it on all of the sides of the trays, which is now a centerpiece. And this is what it looks like when it's all dry. Next, I came back with these Dollar Tree cubes, and I was happy they came in a set of 3, and I hot glued a cube to each of those trays right in the center. Next, I came back with some Spanish moss and I filled the trays with the Spanish moss. I don't want to have it cover over the cube though in the center, just going all the way around. Spanish moss goes a long way too. You don't need very much of it, which is nice when you're crafting. And then I found this flower bundle at Hobby Lobby, and of course it's 40% off because it's fall. So I just disassembled it. I took all of the flowers, all of the leaves, everything, and put it into individual pieces. And then I just kind of played around and figured out where I wanted these to go in my display. I thought those larger berry bundles would look nice on the ends. And I really don't want to see those cubes, so then I used the leaves to cover up the cubes. Then I took little pieces of those berries and I put those over top and just kind of played around to really fill up this centerpiece. Next, I found these tumblers at Target, and they were actually really cheap. And then I took some Rub and Buff, and this is in antique gold, and I just brushed that around the top rim of each of those glasses. If you've never worked with Rub and Buff before, this is so much fun to craft with. And you don't have to use a lot of this product. So even though it's a small tube of the Rub and Buff, it will last a very long time. Once I was done, this is what my tumblers look like. Next, I came back with my hot glue gun and I secured a tumbler to each of those cubes. But this is for fall, so I took some Dollar Tree pumpkins. These came with 3 pumpkins and some leaves on each piece. So it took 2 stems to get all of the pumpkins that I wanted for this project. Then I secured the pumpkins in place, and using some cut up leaves, I'm going to add a little bit of that greenery to each of my pumpkins. And once I was done with that, I came back with some of the craft paper with wire curly cues. And this is the end result. And I did add in some battery powered candles, but this is the centerpiece. I think it looks so pretty. So pretty that I'm going to have to show you again. If you've enjoyed this video, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button, and if you click the bell notification, you'll get an alert every time I have a new video coming out. And as you can tell, I've got a lot of projects in my mind that I have to make come to life. So I would love it if you would take a moment, hit the subscribe button, and be sure to come back for my next video.